I'm Alicia Agnes, and today I'd like to tell you a few words about my latest trip to Łódź. As you know, I went to Łódź to go to the show um, by Niall Horan. I mean, it was a live performance, and the tourist, related to the album, which is called The Show. So the show was for the show, this kind of things. And I wouldn't be myself if I didn't go sightseeing. And as I've mentioned some time ago, I wanted to see 4 places, but in the end, I only saw 3 of them because my train was simply late. And it wasn't a little, but 55 minutes. So I couldn't see all that I wanted, but I saw some really nice places, and today I'd like to show you photos from these places. But at first I'd like to introduce you to what these places were about. So at first I went to the Museum of Film, something like that, and I bought there such a one book. And it's about the Promised Land. It's such a movie about about Łódź, and it's based on the novel by Raymond. Oh, I found something from the show. Also such little cards were given for those who were on the bleachers, and it was one of those actions during the song This Town, and it was about placing this little red card to the lamp so it would turn red. So if I found this in my book from the first palace, because it was a palace. It was I have to find this surname so I read it properly. So wait a minute. Must be somewhere here. Oh my god. When we need something, we can find this. Schleibler. Something like this. So such a very rich family had this palace in 19th century, and it's all based with, related with the history of Łódź, and there are so many such palaces which belong to people who just owned all those factories, and Schleibler is one of such people, and in his palace there is a museum of the film. There is the whole history of this industry from the very beginning, from those first films that were made in the 19th century, something like that. I had a presentation about the history of the film during my studies, and thanks to this I could even more understand this whole exposition, and it was fascinating. And there was a lot about the Łódź, because the city is is something like Hollywood to Americans, I guess, because there is in Łódź such a very famous school where so many future directors go. And not only, and and there was a part about the school and about this industry, and just about Łódź as well. And this book that I bought, as I've already said, it's about the Promised Land. It's about the Andrzej Wajda's film, which is based on the novel, Władysław Raymond's novel, Promised Land. And maybe you heard about this writer because he got a Nobel Prize, and it's one of those most important writers of Polish culture. And also there's one more movie which was made in 30s of 20th century, so before the war, and we can learn more about this first picture also during this exposition. And well, if you are very much interested in film industry and about the history of the film, and you want to also learn more about the Polish film, then this place is something that you just must see. So it was the first museum, and I wanted to go also to the second place. That day it was Sunday, but as I've already said, my train was late, so I couldn't, and I just realized that I wouldn't have enough time to see everything, so what's the point to go? Okay, so the Monday was for the show, so I didn't go anywhere, and also when it's Monday, so many museums are closed. There's nothing that we can do about this. And well, then the third and the last day of my trip was about 2 next palaces. So 3 palaces in actually 2 days. Wow. So the first place that I saw on Tuesday was the Museum of Łódź, and it's the biggest probably palace of Łódź, because it's Israel Poznański's palace, and he was so rich that not only this palace but all those factories and lands, it was like almost the half of the Łódź that 19th century, which was belonged to him. So if you can compare this place to anything else, I guess it's like The Gilded Age. I mean that series, HBO Max. I mean that's what I watched this, and that palace in that story kind of reminds me about this situation here. I mean about this palace, about this fortune, and it was a huge palace, and we can see there all those beautiful rooms. We can even rest in one of such rooms. It's the first place that I've been to, and something like this was created, because usually when you go to such palaces, it's like you can sit on all those chairs and and stuff, because it's all very odd furniture, and they can break easily because they are really odd. But here there was the room where you could just sit and relax, and those chairs look just like all those other from other rooms, so it was really comfy to sit there and to relax for a minute. Okay, so it was also about the history of Łódź, and in the basement there was something like this. I mean, it was kind of complicated. I needed a minute to kind of realize where to go and how to see this exposition, but it was very interesting, and it's about the history of Łódź, and it really it looked like this, and it was really fun, and I've spent over 3 hours in this palace, and there is a lot expositions to see, and it was fascinating. And as you see, I've got so many folders from there, and it's all free stuff. So if you like to, you can totally go there. And as I've said, Łódź is this kind of city that was growing so fast, and and you can only compare this to all those American cities. Okay, so now the last place under the book that I bought. It's the Museum of Herbst. It's another palace, and this place is related with Schleibler's palace and family, because that man, I mean Herbst, married their daughter, I mean Schleibler's daughter, and this way, it was a huge family interest, and they all have had palaces, and this one is also called as a villa sometimes, and or they all they also had factories, and near to this palace there was such a factory indeed. I'd like to show you how this palace looks like. First of all, that's the front gate, let's call it like that, front door. So yep. And also this place reminded me, but it was more wow, the palace that I saw in Gliwice. Is the same period, and maybe the same architectonical inspiration, maybe even the same you know what I mean. So yeah. And there's not only the palace to see, but there is also a little exposition in the place, in the building where the carriages used to be. So there are paintings right now, and there was so many well-known Polish artists like Wyspiański, Wyczółkowski, Matejko, and many more. The most, I guess, important Polish painters, and it's all 19th century kind of stuff, but also the first years of 20th century, yes, something like this. So the last place, as I've said, it's about art, about this amazing palace, and just about the history of this family, Herbsts. Yeah, so that's all that I wanted to say as a little beginning. And well, this book I bought, and these were 3 folders. So these 3 places are something that I saw in Łódź, and in a minute you will see photos that I've taken in those places, and I hope you will enjoy this little presentation. And well, after that presentation, I will come back to tell you what is waiting for you, in the nearest future. So enjoy these photos. welcome back. So I like to tell you that the next video will be in May, and it will be another show and another commentary kind of, thing about Luke Hemming's solo show performance in Warsaw. And well, if you like live music, then I hope you will like this. And if you like just music and getting to know new stuff, then it will be for you. So yep, that's what is waiting for you in the nearest future. I'm in next month, and I guess right now I can only tell you thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you liked my little presentation. Do you hear this dog? I guess this dog is just missing their owners very much. So as I've said, I'm glad if you watch the whole video about this trip, and I hope you really liked these words that I've said and those photos that I've taken. And I hope you enjoyed this, and maybe I also inspired you to go to Łódź one day. That's what I really hope. So thank you so much for watching. You can like, subscribe, comment, and see you in May. Bye.